Hello, and welcome to the Off-Meta Umineko Read-Along podcast, the weekly podcast where I guide my friends and first-time readers through my favorite story of all time, the highly acclaimed murder mystery visual novel Umineko When They Cry. We're discussing its narrative and themes, and they work together with our community to try and solve its various mysteries. Hope you'll join us on this exciting journey as we delve into the witch's cat box. I'm Kyle J, and joining me on our one-way trip to Rokkenjiima, we have our readers, James Capelli, Ben, and Becca. Welcome, y'all. So, how was your read this week?
Kyle, that was the best introduction you've ever done, and in one take. I'm very proud of you.
Thank you.
But the read itself, very good. I thought it did a lot of setting up stuff that will pay off later.
Short but sweet.
Yeah, it was short but sweet, and I liked it because we've had some very meaty episodes.
Mm-hmm.
And we have Becca back.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm so devastated that I missed the last recording because I probably have a lot more to say about that one than this one, but man, it's all heating up, and I'm so excited to see where it goes.
Especially because now you are in completely uncharted territory as the anime never got to this part.
Oh yeah, all of this, Erika Furuto, who is she? I've never seen this woman in my life.
To be fair, neither have they.
Sure.
I did some dabbling where I probably shouldn't have dabbled, just out of curiosity. There is a lot of Erika Furuto fan art.
That's not surprising.
Which tells me she's gonna stick around, I think. And I don't know how to feel about that yet.
I don't think so. I think she's just part of the Burn Castle, and I think Burn Castle is probably a fan favorite. Like, Burn Castle plus Erika together are a fan favorite based on how they're written, in my opinion. Like, they seem very, like, Japanese encoded waifu material. Like,
Yeah, there's a bit of that.
they feel very well. Beatrice and Lambda Delta are very in your face. We see a lot more like of the cunning, a lot of cunning behind Burn Castle and therefore Erika.
I love that you said cunning.
I mean, the way I see it is, right, Beatrice is very much presented as the Western witch.
Yep.
Right? I don't think she's ever called that, but it is very much like she knows about lots of culture over there and, you know, the East with the mangas and all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But she's like the whole Kinzo's obsession with the West and their way of life and their art and stuff like that. Then Beatrice fits that also very much. So I see her personality as much more of what you expect to see in the West versus Lambda Delta and Burn Castle being a bit more in the Eastern sensibilities.
I don't have as much knowledge of that in terms of like the differences between Eastern and Western, but I loved Ben saying cunning because the main descriptor I was thinking of for Erika the entire time I've been reading her is like she's got sinister energy.
Oh, yeah.
Sinister and cunning.
For sure.
And she just wants to open Pandora's box to see what happens, and I completely understand why that would be a fan favorite.
Yeah.
She's a like lawful evil character in a sense. Like,
Okay.
I'd call her chaotic even.
it's weird. I'm going between lawful evil and chaotic neutral. Like, I don't know. Like, those are two opposite ends of the spectrum, but I can make arguments for both.
Mhm.
Like, if you're going by the D&D 9 alignments.
I would say she's what's the middle ground between chaotic and lawful? Unaligned?
Neutral.
Neutral. I'd say neutral evil. That's how I read it. So it's interesting how we all have three different takes, but we all say evil. It's an interesting take because we know that Burn Castle controls Battler's peace in his absence to make him act and talk the way she wants for them to bounce off each other. Supposedly, like there's something going on there, but you know there could always be an asterisk on how it works. So in that sense, she could set herself to be as devious as she wants to be seen as for the purpose of the game, right? Like in Battler's absence, Burn Castle has two pieces,
right?
And I look forward to seeing how it plays out.
I do want to clarify something about that because I know that was part of y'all's discussion last time was like Battler's agency. I didn't get through that whole part of the conversation when I was listening to it, but we have also seen in the past Battler's piece do things on the game board that we know meta Battler knows is not true, or like he as the meta person controlling the game has more omniscient knowledge than his piece does, but his piece is still acting on the knowledge that only the piece has.
Right.
and reacting to that in a way. So I wonder how much of the game board, and I don't know how much of this Kyle can confirm or deny without spoiling anything, but I wonder how much agency any pieces have on the game board, if they're being directly controlled or if it's kind of like an autopilot situation where the players make broad, more like big picture decisions that then the pieces react to how those characters would react, but kind of like on autopilot mode, because we've seen Peace Battler react to knowledge that Meta Battler either like already has. So what does that mean?
Yeah, I really like the idea of thinking it in terms of fragments, but like the people on the outside are controlling the big movements, and then everyone on the ground is reacting to the ramifications of it, and that's what's causing the splits in fragments and why. But they have to still follow their motivations. Like they can't break character per se, because they are those characters still. They're just reacting to different stimuli that the controllers are putting into it.
I think that's... I very much agree with that. My only two thoughts are, A, if Lambda Delta is changing the game state prior to day one, I don't think Beatrice ever does that. I think that's one of the things that their playstyle is different.
And we have seen something that is a slight indication that might be the case, right? We're talking specifically about the phone call to Natsuhi from the man from 19 years ago, because we're not exactly sure when that happens.
Right.
There's a slight implication that it might happen the day of the typhoon, right? Because, like, she talked about the weather being really bad outside. So it's possible it's as early as literally the day, and so maybe it's not before the game, but it's kind of implied to be before all this happens, so it's unclear for sure.
But we get all those scenes with Natsuhi talking to the witch, and seeing dead Kinzo. There's not really been a hint of that in the prior 4 episodes.
Sure.
But I also don't think we're going to get an answer as to what it means to be a piece on the board, what it means for the metaverse to be controlling the pieces. I think it's just one of those things you just accept for the sake of the story and just are along for the ride in that. I don't think it's going to be spelled out. I don't think it's going to be a big revelation, but who knows?
Yeah, it's definitely something the story could get into. We'll see if they decide to take that direction.
The other thing that I really was interested in is the way the narration has changed since Lambda Delta took over from Beato. Like, things are described differently, which also, because we've been discussing this so much over the course of the entire reading, is like, sometimes in the narration, when it's just like somebody talking about their perspective or a generic descriptor happening of what's happening that seems third person omniscient, but we're always trying to figure out who is the voice here. I feel like there is a definite difference between when Beato was running this game and now that Lambda is running it. There was specific phrasing, but it was from last reading, so I won't bring it up. But there's one part from chapter 82 that was really sticking out to me.
Well, while you're thinking about that, let me cut in, because I do want to talk about this a little bit later in the episode, where they had mentioned, like, wow, the two witches really, like, for lack of a better term, fucked up Beatrice's game and they're not playing with like respect and character to what she had created. And there's a point in this that I want to get to later that's basically like I couldn't imagine what that was when they said it, and now I see it and I go, oh, they actually nailed that. Like, they nailed that feeling of, oh, this feels wrong after we've been through 4 cycles of this.
Yes.
So
thank you, Ben. You just completely reminded me of what I was trying to say.
I got you.
Burn and Lambda aren't playing by Beatrice's rules. Like, if it's not a written rule, they don't really give a fuck. So things that Beato might find gauche or untoward or like unsportsmanlike, Burn and Lambda don't seem to really give a shit.
But that makes it not a rule. That makes it a spirit of the game.
Right.
Rules as written versus rules as intended.
Right. Well, that's what I'm saying is like, that was the whole thing at the end of the last was Virgilia being like, they'll do things that Beato just wouldn't do because she didn't think it was in the spirit of the game, but they don't care about that. They're going to do whatever the fuck they want. So I feel like a lot of it calls into question how much influence they have outside of these few days on the island, because we've already seen from The Witch's Tanabata Isn't Sweet that Burn changed the entire trajectory of Angie's life in at least that one fragment. Just because, so that she could create a piece that she could later bring into the game board. Like, how far does the influence extend? And what does that mean in a mystery sense? I have no earthly clue, but I find fascinating.
I have an ethical question for you.
Oh, okay.
In a world where there are infinite fragments, is it unethical to convince an individual, just one Angie, to reject Eva as her maternal figure, to manipulate her to be a piece on the board? In the world of mathematics, all other fragments remain the same, and Angie goes on to live a happy life as best as she can. But an infinitesimally small segment of one and infinite lives a miserable life. Is that ethical or not? Because the grand scheme of things, in infinity, it literally does not matter.
You ever read The Ones Who Walk Away from Omelas?
Never heard of it.
By Ursula K. Le Guin. It's a short story. Highly recommend reading that.
I'm a big Omelas stan, personally, but I'd be outsourcing Omelas's.
I can't tell if you're joking or not.
We gotta franchise the Omelas, in my opinion.
Tell me about it, Becca. What's on your mind?
So, Kyle, back me up if I'm getting any of this wrong or misremembering it, but it is, you can Google this short story. It's online. The Ones Who Walk Away from Omelas, Omelas, is about a utopian society where everything is plentiful and everyone is fine and no one has to work. Everything is great all the time. But when you come of a certain age as like a child or a teenager, as part of this society, you are brought to this room, to this basement, where you are shown a single child.
I believe it's a child, yeah.
A child who suffers for everyone else, who knows nothing but suffering, who is chained up and bears all of the suffering of the world so that the rest of society can flourish. And most people, when presented with this, they're like, this is a necessary evil, and they go on to live their perfect utopian life. And there are some people who, when they are presented with this reality, they leave society, they walk away from Omelas. And there's no real answer. It's kind of like a philosophical quandary that you're meant to think about and kind of decide where you land on.
Yeah, especially because like the start of the book, it talks about imagining such a society. Because like part of the premise of the book is thinking about like how we can only conceive of like utopias as being like secretly dystopias, and that there's this base assumption that there must be some like terrible underpinning behind like anything good. There's a lot of really interesting philosophy stuff in there. But yeah, it's an interesting question because like all the other thing about it, it's not about like dismantling Omelas either. It's just about not being personally wanting to like be a part of something that you find abhorrent.
Yeah.
So that begs the question, do you find it ethical? And that's up to you.
Right. I guess it's all about what kind of society are you okay living in and what sacrifices to your psyche and your moral code are you willing to make? Which you could kind of tie that into Umineko, right? I feel like that's something Battler struggles with a lot, especially with his relationship with Beatrice, who he's seen kill his family many times over. But here he is empathizing with her, right? There's at least like one or two things said at the end of episode 4 that I feel like really struck him, where he really got a sense of who she is, what state she's in, and what she's struggling with, that he wants to like connect with in some shape or form, right? Like, I don't think Hayley would likely disagree with me a little bit. I don't think it's a purely like romantic connection or develops into a romantic connection for him to say, I can connect with someone who is suffering, right? Because he has felt excluded. He has felt isolated for sticking with his own moral code. You know, before we get into the whole idea of is this Battler, what he's been through, etc., which is revelations that I am sure are to come. It's so fascinating to be like, when you can take a story as wide scale as this and turn it into a true philosophical or ethical discussion of the human condition and how that affects the person individually. Because, like, Battler's not sitting there being like, well, philosophically or ethically, I should definitely be helping this lady. He doesn't give a shit about that. He's speaking from the heart.
Yeah, he's acting on feeling.
Yeah, that's very human, which is why I think he makes a great protagonist in this, is he is in the mindset to be most, to have the most open state of mind, the most open ears to hear what his antagonist is saying and feeling.
Mm-hmm.
Which is usually a spell for disaster, but a compelling storytelling nonetheless.
We're very much getting that contrast with Erika, who is, especially in this reading, shown to be, well, not especially in this reading, she's been pretty well shown across the board, pretty heartless.
Sinister.
Yeah.
Right, so, like, we are all fans of Blood on the Clock Tower, right? And it is an interesting social deception game. We all met because of Blood on the Clock Tower, right? And that idea of social deception games unifies us as a foundation for our relationship, right? And it's an interesting game about lying and deception, where we, all four of us, and I know Hayley would agree, so 5, that the foundation is that we are not there to win. We are not there to lie. We are there to have fun first and foremost, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's that same kind of thing where that as your priority is going to affect what it feels like to be, I'm here to win. We've all dealt with people that are there to win, and that sours the experience for everybody else if they don't share the same mindset. And Erika, I think, fits that very similarly. She's there to win, whereas Battler's like, this is not the spirit of the game.
Yeah, and I'll kind of add that one of my favorite things, I forget where I heard this, but the goal of the game is to win, but it's the goal that matters, not the outcome. It is the path that you take in trying to win the game that matters, not whether or not you actually succeed, because in the end, the result is meaningless if you had fun. And this is obviously for games that do not have an intrinsic monetary reward at the end.
Yeah, if we were playing Blood on the Clock Tower and the winning team splits $1 million, I will cut every one of your throats to support my life and my family, right? That's a different story.
Of course.
But if you're there to play a game and have fun...
We just discovered that Capelli is the killer in this episode.
I want to play the mole. If they announce season 3, I'm auditioning, okay?
Yeah.
My last real thought on this is that I don't even think Erika's goal is to win or to solve the riddle. Her goal is... she's so vindictive toward Jessica.
Yeah.
And she is so... they have that whole metaphor they go on. In the previous reading, the narration starts talking about how she is so excited to break the lock and she does not care about what comes out after she breaks that lock. Like, she literally just wants to open Pandora's box and see what the fuck happens. She kind of just wants to watch the world burn a little bit. Burn? She wants to watch the world burn?
Clever.
Anyway.
For me, I don't like... I feel like she does take that on halfway through. But to me, she goes into this being like, I have heard about Beatrice. I will defeat her. I will prove that I am superior. I wouldn't be surprised if Erika is out to steal Beatrice's witchhood in a way, because it seems like she takes this weird ecstatic joy in solving the epitaph. And I can't remember exactly what she says, but she says something along the lines of, my first time I outwitted your riddle. Like, clearly it's a line directed at Beatrice. I do believe the motivation is anti-Jessica because she's a vindictive person. But I feel like she comes into this being like, I will be smarter, I will be better than Beatrice, as whichever could be.
My only rebuttal to that is, I think Byrne is a cheater.
Oh, yeah.
Because she sifts through all the fragments to find different pieces of the answer in order to lead her to the Golden Land. Like, she's a fucking cheater. She didn't actually solve it. 2, Erika is Byrne. Like, I am thinking of them interchangeably. I don't think Erika cares about stealing Beato's, like, witchhood, because Byrne is already a witch. And Erika is, like, a piece version of her. But I might be wrong. That's the way I've been reading it, but I might be wrong.
I was with you. I did feel the same. I don't think you got to a reading point where Erika is in the metaverse and speaks to Battler. So that changes that perspective a little bit.
Yep, it sure does.
Right, so we'll get into it. We've spent 20 minutes talking about the episode before diving in.
Well, this week we're continuing episode 5, End of the Golden Witch, with about 2.5 hours of reading, ending on the line, if the object of our protection is Kenzo's illusion, we must be the illusions then. After which, the clock advances from 7:46 a.m. to 8:04 a.m. And also, last time we said that they were phantasms. Depending on the translation, it might be phantasms or illusions in your version. And that is videos 82 through 84 of the YouTube playlist. If you've not caught up to that point yet, go ahead and stop the podcast and catch up before rejoining us. Or if you're just listening to us along for the ride, welcome aboard. Our story resumes with the late-night family conference. After returning to the mansion, the adult siblings had once again tried to enter Kenzo's study. However, they continued to get no response from Kenzo and were unable to enter, with Natsuhi claiming that Kenzo had taken even Genji's key. Back in the dining hall, the adults continued their arguments from earlier, with Eva's group trying to extort money from Krauss and him denying everything. With the arguments going in circles and midnight approaching, everyone decides to take a break. Kenzo's tape deck is brought out to serve as a record when things continue, and Krauss and Natsuhi make an excuse to go out into the hall for a strategy meeting. Kiri offers Battler her condolences for having to watch all of this and says that he can probably leave once Krauss and Natsuhi return. Shannon and Cannon then arrive with tea, and everyone, desperate for something to distract them from the family conference, cajoles them into staying to have tea and chat. However, as the clock strikes midnight, someone knocks on the door to the parlor. We then jump back in time slightly to see Krauss and Natsuhi in a distant hallway on the second floor, discussing whether or not to have Kenzo disappear into the forest tomorrow morning. While Natsuhi thinks it's time to let Kenzo's spirit rest, Krauss is desperate to not use their trump card until the last second, in hopes of avoiding the immense suspicion and backlash that would result. Krauss attempts to comfort Natsuhi and tells her that when the time comes, he will drop divorce papers so that only he will take the fall. However, Natsuhi refuses to abandon him or the Ashirmiya family.
I do want to say something here.
Sure.
I don't like Krauss. I really don't like Krauss. This story is going to have to do a lot of work to rehabilitate him to the point where I give a shit about him, because they present this as kind of a noble gesture, presenting like a potential divorce to Natsuhi to like save her from the disgrace, I'm doing air quotes, of being like making a mistake. And the narration goes out of its way to be like, yes, this is an honorable thing that he's doing. But really the only thing Natsuhi wants is to be seen as an Ushiromiya. So it's also kind of like the ultimate slap in the face to her. And it is just so... I think he's also just making a very stupid decision. I think he's convincing her to make the wrong decision. I haven't finished this reading, so I don't know how this pans out. But
no, you're right. You're right.
Okay, great. Great.
You're good.
Yeah. No, fuck Krauss, essentially, is where I'm at right now.
I agree with everything that you said, except for I don't hate Krauss. I think Krauss is a very well-written character that is extremely in his own head about everything and wants to be seen as the knight in shining armor, but was not raised in such a way to actually know how to be that. Only seen the outcome of it, not actually the actions that lead to it. And, I mean, we all know Kenzo's a terrible role model. And that's basically all that he had for the entirety of his life in terms of how to act like a person that's better than everyone else and still cares. And look how it turned out for him, because he didn't have any of the older siblings that the rest of his siblings have, because he is the oldest, to know what not to be like. So he was the first experiment, and I put that in air quotes, to like try to follow in Kenzo's shoes, but he has no understanding, no innate reasoning for how to do that correctly. So therefore he makes these gestures to try and be that, but isn't actually that. And to me, it doesn't make me hate him. It makes me pity him, which I don't know if that's worse.
That is such a good take from both of you.
I don't disagree with you. I just think he's fucking stupid. And also,
I agree that he's stupid. I just don't hate him for it, I think.
I think the narrative has been very clear. He's not stupid. He's just unlucky with his business choices, guys.
There was something I literally screenshotted from, it might have been the beginning of this reading, where he's like, yeah, I invested all this money on what was supposed to be a sure thing and it didn't pan out. And I'm like, that's the definition of gambling, dude. You gambled and it didn't work out in your favor and now you're like pissed off about it. That's what gambling is.
Don't you know 85% of gamblers stop right before they're about to win?
Because they run out of money, yeah.
Yeah. I think it's fascinating because I
wish we could just can we get a shot of Becca's face there in the video, because Becca's face was just so good.
I definitely agreed with Becca, right? And like I disliked Krauss from early on because there was something about him that was off.
Oh, of course.
And then we see how he was raised, and then we see how he treated his siblings. And I was like, Krauss is kind of a piece of shit, I was saying to Kyle. And Kyle's like, how have you seen him interact with Jessica? And I'm like, pretty good, actually. He's actually a good dad, but that's it. And then everything in this chapter, episode, what have you, shows a very different light of just very strong incompetence.
Yep.
And Kinzo judges his kids compared to himself. And a lot of times it's shown that he was a prodigy. And he expects that of his offspring is probably the term he would use, right? I still love Kinzo as a character. That's a little twisted now that we know that Kinzo's still been dead from everything we've seen, but still a fascinating fictional point of view. But as a dad, dude fucking sucks. So to Ben's point, what chance did Krauss have? I think from a lot of the scenes we have between Krauss and Natsuhi, he's doing the best he can, but his best is better as a role in, we'll say, modern family roles, where like he would excel as a stay-at-home dad.
I was just about to say he should be a stay-at-home dad. Like, that's the only thing he's good at. That's the only time I like him is when he is being a good dad to Jessica. He is a piece of shit to Natsuhi at every turn, and she's his fucking wife.
Yeah. Let Natsuhi be the breadwinner, and let Krauss manage the laundry and raising their daughter, and I think their family would do stellar. All right? But that is not the era that these people live in. That is not the societal class these people live in, where it's like the man must be the one to upstand the familial and the masculine values, and that's just not how it goes. Which is a damn shame. Like, and it's so fascinating. Like, I wish I could get like a spark notes on each character that we have discussed as the story has progressed, and like our initial takes on them in like each episode, how it's gone, and how we've kind of been like, oh, I kind of understand this character. I like this aspect of them. I dislike that aspect of them. But the character-driven component of the writing, superb. That we can have these long, in-depth conversations, and I fucking love it.
I will say, Krauss has a really great, like, little confused smile on his sprite a lot of times. He's just, like, it's really great. He comes into a situation, he's like, he's just there, and it's like, this guy, you can't hate that face.
I mean, you can, but you can relate to it.
Just then, as the clock strikes midnight, Genji arrives and pulls Natsuhi aside to inform her that another mysterious phone call has come for her, the man from 19 years ago. Natsuhi thinks back to 19 years ago, a time so very different from 1 year later, when she had finally been able to give birth to Jessica, and her life as a Shumia Natsuhi really began. Everything before that, including that time 19 years ago, whose recollection even now filled her ears with the roar of the sea, contains nothing but hateful memories. Telling Krauss that she is turning in for the night, she has Genji transfer the call to her room, and returns there to see what this mysterious man wants now. Taunting her once again, calling her mother, the man from 19 years ago says that he wants to play a game with Natsuhi. Since her name has the kanji for summer in it, he asks what her favorite season is. When she says that it's autumn, the mysterious man says that he knew she would say that, as it's his favorite season too. Natsuhi balks, but the man says he has proof. Telling Natsuhi to check under the small antique clock in her room, she finds a card with autumn written on it. Freaking out that not only does this man seem to know something that she has told almost no one, but also that he somehow has access to her bedroom, Natsuhi asks the man what it is that he wants from her. The man from 19 years ago says that he doesn't want money. No, the only medicine that can heal the wounds in his heart is his hatred towards Natsuhi, this murderer who dares to act like a normal, neat freak mother. The mysterious man reveals that he, as he said he would, has come to the island for the family conference, and references the presence of Haruto Erika, something only those on the island right now know about. He says that he will remain hidden for now, but will reveal himself if she decides to tell anyone of him. With his threats finished, he orders Natsuhi to stay in her room all night until morning, and to not make or answer any phone calls until then.
Okay, quick show of hands. Who else guessed immediately that her favorite season was going to be autumn?
Me.
She just feels like an autumn to you?
Yeah. Oh yeah. It's the character art.
I guessed it because this story takes place in October.
Oh, interesting.
So I was like, it's autumn.
I made no guess. I did not think to even think about it. I just went, I wonder what it is, and then it was autumn.
Yeah. So, like, my whole thing is, like, this will clearly be used as aha, well, magic is real. How else could he have known? Where it's just like, there could easily have been an answer for every season written somewhere in the room where it's like, check under the bed, check under the dresser, what's behind the mirror, you know?
Yeah, it's a classic trick, for sure.
That's really smart. That's a really smart thought that I never thought of. Very good.
Yeah, that's big brain. That's 4D chess.
Is it 4D chess? It's just like, it's basic manipulation.
It is, but I didn't even think about it.
She's clearly in emotional distress.
Yeah.
Right? And, like, it works, right? But, like, I think that's what it is. Or at the very least, like, that's the blue text that Battler will have to use. We still haven't really gotten into a crazy red versus blue battle that goes into the specifics.
No, not really.
And I feel like Lambda Delta is likely to be the one to be like to push for that. Like, no, explain this. Like, how if it's not magic, what is it? You know. But, like, with the reveal, Becca, do you know the reveal of the voice of this person?
No. Is that revealed in this reading?
Yeah, it's revealed in this reading.
Calling it a reveal is like...
I would call it a reveal. Because it clearly shows...
I would not call it a reveal.
My suspicion... Well, as I was, like... I know Ben doesn't watch it with the audio playing because it interferes with your reading, but, like,
Correct.
Listening to it, it sounds like Battler.
Yeah, that's fair.
It sounds very close to Battler. I don't think it's Battler, but, like...
Interesting.
The way that the character talks reminds me a lot of Battler. But also, my suspicion from just, like, the new, like, intro animatic sequence that happened at the beginning of episode 5...
Is this the spoiler version or the spoiler-free version?
I believe you have the spoiler-free version if you're watching the YouTube videos.
It's the YouTube video, yeah. It's the PS3
All right, so go on.
version.
Yeah, that's fine.
So I assumed it may have some connection to, like, there's a character that we've never seen before in that animatic who is reading a book, and it's a guy.
Oh.
And it also was like... It also made me start thinking about how Kyle always puts readers in quotes. But
in our notes, yeah.
Yes, in our notes.
I will say the reveal that I'm talking about is nothing like that. But I will save my notes and my thoughts on that for when Kyle gets to it.
We're about to talk to it, so...
I'm excited to get there, because we're almost to the point where I stopped reading, so...
We then return to the dining hall at midnight, just after the mysterious knock at the door. With no response when asked who it was, Ken eventually opens the door to find no one there. They do ever find, on the floor just outside the door, one of Kenzo's gold-bordered, one-winged eagle envelopes. With the mansion locked up for the night, the most likely theory is that Krauss, Natsuhi, or Genji had left it there trying to make it seem like a message from Kenzo. Inside, they find Kenzo's signet ring, and a letter from Beatrice congratulating Battler on solving the epitaph and becoming the new head of the Shibuya family. Just then, Krauss and Genji return. Genji immediately recognizes the ring the Battler is now wearing, and Krauss is left baffled by this turn of events. Rosa manages to leave the conference at 1 a.m., but it isn't until 3 a.m. that Battler finally manages to slip away, and, despite all their continued arguing, not a single thing had managed to be agreed on. Returning to the guest house, Battler finds that Goda, Dr. Nanjo, and Erika are still up, having been chatting most of the night. Realizing the time, they decide to call it a night, and everyone returns to their rooms. When Battler enters the cousin's room, everyone seems to already be asleep, and so he quickly and quietly goes to bed. Before he falls asleep, though, he thinks back to what his father said to him just before he left. Rudolf told him that there was something important about Battler's birth that they needed to talk about as a family tomorrow. Although, if he does tell Battler about this, Rudolf is probably going to get murdered.
I think that's just really interesting. Like, it harkens back to episode 1, really. Like, where he said, I will probably die, and then does.
It makes me wonder if he told someone something in episode 1. Like, this is like something I definitely want to talk about a little bit.
Yep. I'm excited for the reveal.
Does he talk about this anywhere else in episodes 2, 3, or 4?
Nope, this is the first time he said something similar.
So chapter 1 and chapter 5, like, that's it.
Yes.
Well, I mean, we know he lives through the first sacrifice, so I will be very fascinated to see the conversation that they're going to have.
Yeah, we'll see if they get to it.
Don't say it like that. Come on, man. This can't be a carrot they dangle in front of us for another episode or 2 or 3.
Yeah, I think I get to it in episode 9.
9? Fuck off. Is there? Hold on. Is there really an episode 9?
No. There's like some people jokingly refer to episode 9 as like things that don't happen. There also is like some post content that was recently released that's like some people also refer to episode 9, so it actually is confusing to joke like that now.
Oh, you mean like the stuff like that talks about like Natsuhi's headaches and stuff like that?
Kind of like they released a special edition that had like some like additional stuff, and people kind of lump that in as being its own episode.
Are we going to go over that in this podcast?
Yeah, we probably will. Well, we can't. There's no like official English version of that we can get, but I think we could find someone's playthrough on YouTube and get a copy of it again, play through that at least like read that.
Okay.
It's definitely worth listening to. It's a good one. Of course, oh god, once we get to episode 8, we're going to have a conversation about if we're going to read the manga at all. Because there is a...
I didn't even know there was a manga.
There's a manga, and it's distinctly different between the visual novel of episode 8 and the manga of episode 8.
That's
fun.
Wild.
There are like notable
fun.
differences.
All right. There will be no dispute between Hayley and I if it's playing a game or reading a book this time around.
As a person who read all of A Song of Ice and Fire, anytime somebody's like, we'll talk about this later, I just don't expect it to ever fucking happen.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, right? You know, we're about to get to a point where there has been more of a gap between books 5 and 6 than there has been between 1 and 5.
That's wild.
There's a YouTuber I follow, Preston Jacobs, that is literally writing fan fiction of the Winds of Winter based on, like, he's like one of the more prolific theorizers of like fan theories for Song of Ice and Fire.
Like a fandom tentpole.
Yeah, he's like one of like the big like, oh, this could mean this and this, tying all like little loose threads together, trying to figure out what's gonna happen.
Mm-hmm. Like a real Southern Ambitions kind of guy.
Yeah, like he has a lot of really long videos talking about like really big grand like conspiracy theory stuff that he thinks might be happening. But he actually has been writing fan fiction versions of the Winds of Winter. Kind of, it may have started kind of as a joke, as being like, we're going to finish Winds of Winter before it comes out, but now it's like, that might be the only version of Winds of Winter everybody gets.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I honestly, send me the link. I am invested. I love Sansa Stark.
If we
Like,
get Winds of Winter, we will never get A Dream of Spring.
Almost certainly, yeah.
And because, like, he's said he wishes he had written the whole series, or at least outlined it, before starting. Because there's stuff that he started with that he no longer wishes he did, so that he could, like, write the narrative at this point. And, like, if you hear, like, the ideas that he had with the original idea that this was going to be a trilogy, where it was like there was a love triangle between Arya, Jon Snow, and Tyrion, right? Like,
That's wild.
there was some weird shit. Like, riding dragons was going to be a thing in book 2. Like, the scope of the story vastly changed.
I have opened an entirely unintentional can of worms. I'm so sorry.
I doubt this is going to make it to the official cut, which is why I'm happy to talk about it.
Yeah. All right, well, we can have our Song of Ice and Fire podcast afterwards, but yeah.
Yes.
Make somebody write that down. I kind of want to talk about this with you guys later.
With the sound of crashing waves, we return to Natsuhi discussing her memories from 19 years ago with Beatrice. Back then, Natsuhi had been tormented by her inability to become pregnant and provide an heir to the Ashimiya family headship. She had tried any medicine or treatment said to increase fertility, and had even seen several doctors, all of whom had been unable to find the cause. With several years having passed since her marriage to the family, Eva began aggressively campaigning for Kenzo to make George his heir. With Hideyoshi's business being the only one thriving at that time, it had seemed like a real possibility. Beatrice comforts Natsuhi, saying that if Kenzo wanted a grandchild so badly, he should have just made one with all that money he was so proud of. And so, Kenzo had done just that. Using his substantial philanthropic ties to the Gospel House orphanage, Kenzo acquired an infant child that he ordered Natsuhi to adopt as his grandchild and future heir, since Natsuhi was clearly barren. Natsuhi had been filled with hatred at her own body and devastated at the prospect of raising a child that shared neither hers nor her husband's blood. She prayed to both angels and demons. Angels that she would become pregnant with her husband's child, and demons that this cursed child, who only served as a living embodiment of her failures, might disappear. While the angels did eventually bring her Jessica a year later, so too did the demons grant her darker wish. One day, aggravated by the baby's cries, Natsuhi ordered a servant woman to take the child somewhere she couldn't hear it any longer. Apparently, the servant had taken the baby on the path from the rose garden towards the harbor, and had wandered away from the path towards a cliff. There, a railing they had been leaning against had fallen, and they fell to their deaths. Beatrice and her demon furniture all reassure Natsuhi that she is blameless, that a demon must have lured the poor servant off the path to her death. No, Beatrice herself claims responsibility for killing those two. Natsuhi says that when she found the two at the bottom of the cliff, she had run back to the mansion to get help, and while they had barely managed to survive the fall, both ended up dying in the hospital shortly afterwards. All of this took place within 3 days, while Krauss was on a business trip and Rosa was traveling with friends. When Kinzo learned of the child's death, he wasn't even angry. Instead, he laughed maniacally, saying, "I saw this coming. I knew this would happen. How long must you struggle? To what lengths will you go to escape being mine? Wahahaha. I have no interest in an empty cage. Throw it away." And ever since that day, he became even more mad and eccentric, isolating himself in his occult research. With a nightmare so suddenly here and gone, Natsuhi decided to simply forget everything that had happened during those 3 days 19 years ago. If the supposed man of 19 years ago does still live and wants revenge, Beatrice says that he will have to come through her first.
Firstly, do any of you know the story of A Handmaid's Tale?
I've seen the show.
Okay, so the idea that kind of spawned the society that story represents is that men are truly becoming more infertile, but the blame is put on the women.
Right.
And it's kind of like what happens in that sense. So immediately, it's very clear that there's nothing wrong with Natsuhi or her body as far as bearing children goes. The fault is most likely with Krauss. And how within a society that is so, what's the term? I don't want to say masculine, but...
Like patriarchal?
There you go, patriarchal. That it is almost unspeakable to blame a man for problems within a relationship.
Yeah.
Whether that be this case or something else. And that's very much what the story is showing. Like, this was the 1980s in Japan 40 years ago. I don't know enough about Japan society today. I wouldn't be too shocked to find out this doesn't happen commonly. Whatever, I'm not going to share thoughts on things I don't know shit about. But the idea where it's like, you as a woman are raised in that mentality, in that mindset, in that society. You are jumping through hoops to say, this is my fault. I am the one who is at fault here. Whereas you have these people who, team mystery, team fantasy, whatever, have these close confidence or like, this isn't on you. I will even take full responsibility, kind of like to take that off your shoulders. Right? Like, even Beatrice's like progression in, in real time 5 minutes of, what are you talking about? To no, I did it. You don't have to, this isn't you, this is me. Kind of fits into the idea of what team mystery latches onto, where this team fantasy stuff is a coping mechanism, is a false reality to help people process, unhealthy therapy in a way, right? Which is like kind of the theme that I feel the author is going for.
Yeah.
As far as like, if you do believe it's not true, what is it? It is young women coping with their trauma, with their issues, and how they may put that on others around them. The story's not done, so I can't say thematically what I feel for sure, but that kind of seems like how it's going.
Sure.
And it's just like, yeah, it really helps you empathize again with this character who I think like halfway through chapter 1, episode 1, the three of us, or at least Ben and I, were like, Natsumi's kind of a bitch.
Yeah.
She's like, how she treats the servants and everything. And then by the end, it's like, she's kind of a badass. And here we are, where it's like, oh, I get it. Where she feels so oppressed by the people she desires to be close to be recognized by, that then you are having to take that emotion out onto someone to kind of cope. It's a very human, flawed way of thinking, but, we see it all the time in our lives, I have no doubt. And it's like, yeah, no, I get it. I think it's like a stretch to be like, how did this servant holding a baby who fell off a cliff your fault? Well, I told the servant to take it away. That's the servant's fault. But in a patriarchal society, it was your responsibility, even as just a mom, right? Like, that baby is always going to be yours, even if you didn't want it. That is, your child has been bestowed upon you. Within a family unit, like, I understand that. It's not even a matter of gender or whatever. It's hard. How do you cope? I'll tell you how you cope. You imagine witches in your head who tell you it's not your fault.
Makes sense to me. That's how I cope.
As a day one, also eldest daughter, Natsuhi defender, she just wants to be useful. And she wants to have a purpose. And she's married to a man who is stupid. And has also stopped caring about her at a certain point. We don't know when that happened. We know that they used to have a very sweet and loving relationship at some point. And we know that at the point where we're in 1986 right now, that's not really the case anymore and they're plagued by business troubles. So, like, as a person who has to, like, many marginalized groups feel this. I feel like not just women, but like people of color, people who are disabled, what have you. Like, you feel a need to prove yourself worthy of society's acceptance, but not just acceptance for people who need accommodations. You also desire benevolence because you need the goodwill of other people in society to assist you if you are unable to do things on your own. So, like, Natsuhi being this woman in this position where she's taking on so much responsibility and so much weight of, like, this hugely rich family, while she's got a dunce for a husband who keeps making terrible business decisions, she can't get pregnant. I understand why she has so many headaches. Let's put it that way.
Oh, I love that. Yeah.
So I have a question for you. Given that the story seems to imply that it may have been on Krauss's end that the infertility came from, do you think Jessica is Krauss's daughter?
I would love it if she's not Krauss's daughter. That would delight me. I would be scandalized and delighted.
Kyle, I want to reference a fictional character that some of us may know well. A one Mr. Hank Hill with a narrow urethra who gave birth to a wonderful boy, Bobby Hill. Low statistics still can allow things to happen.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm not saying it's certain, but if it was true.
But in the scope of this story, I'll tell you why I think Jessica is his daughter. In every internal monologue we've ever gotten from Natsuhi, there has never once been a pang of panic that, oh my god, he'll know what I did. Like, that's never happened. She wants so badly to be recognized, and
she wants so badly to be an Ushiromiya, specifically.
Yeah, like, I don't think Natsuhi would ever do that. Like, the one exception is if there's sexual assault involved, and this story does not strike me as something that's going to go into that territory. So yes, I think that there is no infidelity there.
I'm gonna meta Kyle and say that you would not bring this up if this were actually the case, because you would rather it be a reveal later.
Lawyered.
Yeah, that's true.
All right.
But here's the thing. I'm very much a person that's open to any possibility, so I'm not, which is part of my problem in terms of predicting things. Like, I can't subscribe to any specific theory because I'm like, but this could also happen. But with Natsuhi, I do think she's an incredibly faithful person in general.
Mm-hmm. Just loyal. Yeah.
I think it would take a lot for her to have any kind of infidelity. I'm not saying it's impossible. Anything is possible. But if it did happen, I'd be like, good for her. Because Krauss. Like, truly fuck Krauss. Anyway.
No, literally don't fuck Krauss. That's what we're saying.
We then cut back to the end of the phone call from the man of 19 years ago, but we see that Lambda Delta is the one making the call from the witch's smoking room. Bernkastel is impressed by Lambda Delta's voice acting, and Lambda compliments Byrne's new piece for Erika, who likewise appears. Lambda and Byrne take turns taunting Beatrice and laughing about how they plan to desecrate the game for their own entertainment. This fifth game, End of the Golden Witch, lacks both its original creator and its intended opponent. Lambda asks Battler if he is ready to begin the second day, and Erika says that she will be giving Battler plenty of support in exposing the truth of the witch's illusions. However, Battler wants nothing to do with Erika or her support. He plans to take back his and Beatrice's game from those interloping witches.
I feel like what's going to happen is it will be a state where Bernkastel can win very easily, right? Because it's very clear. Like, every time she's like, "Oh, I've got Lambda Delta in a bad corner," and Lambda Delta's like, "Yeah, you kind of do, haha." And Battler be like, "Fuck you! This isn't your game. This isn't how I want to win." I think that's kind of how this chapter is probably going to end, if I had to take a guess.
Okay.
I want to see how they play off the man. Like, if it's actually like. Yes, we understand that technically Lambda Delta is the one making the call. But in reality, that's just not the case. That's how they're explaining it right now. But somebody if we're looking at it from a non-witch perspective, has to be making that call. And it has to be someone on the island. And the red is guaranteed that there is nobody else on the island except for the 17 who are alive and Furuto Erika in this case. So therefore, someone in the family must be making that call, or it's technically Furuto Erika.
It sounds like Battler to me. I'm just saying.
I know it sounds like Battler to you, but that doesn't make sense to me.
It doesn't have to make sense. Just roll with it. Just roll with it. It doesn't have to make sense.
Becca, when have I ever just rolled with something?
Don't you play softball?
I throw, not roll. That's kickball that you roll.
Yeah, well, eventually balls roll. Stupid joke. Cut that out. My God.
I'm putting it in there twice.
Fuck off.
Can you put the second one in?
Anyway,
Can you put the second one in so that it's like slightly slowed down, slow-mo?
Yeah. I'm gonna put the second one earlier in the episode.
No,
out of context,
I'm moving
completely.
on. I'm moving on. To answer Ben's question, I think the man on the phone will never be revealed.
Okay, interesting.
I 100% think that it will be revealed, and it is an important fact.
I need it to be revealed. I need it.
If he is revealed, it will be at the very last second as an idea, like to throw Battler off. It's like, oh, you got 5 minutes left before the game ends. How do you explain this guy with all the red text and something? But I don't think he'll ever be presented in a like. Well, let's look at it through the lens that you and I have spoken about before, Ben. If if Peace Battler doesn't see it, it doesn't happen.
Mm-hmm.
I think the identity of the man on the phone will fit that. Right? He may be shown, right? Like I'm looking at it like the story is being written and read to Battler in the metaverse.
Mm-hmm.
But if Peace Battler doesn't see it, it doesn't matter. It's not substance. You can easily just toss it away, similar to how in episode 3, they're like, how do you explain the witch battle? He's like, what witch battle? There's no destruction here. Right?
Yeah.
I think it's going to fit that vibe if they go into it.
Yeah, so you're saying that this entire call, and maybe this is what you're kind of going for without saying it, is that this entire call is going to be fabricated like by Natsuhi, in a sense, to be like, this person kept calling me.
Yes.
And like, this is the story that I am giving you about what's happening. But since Battler didn't hear it, we can't actually confirm that it's true, so therefore we have to choose whether or not to believe Natsuhi, which matters on this story of witches versus mystery.
Correct. Very well put.
Okay.
I think those rules are different now, though, because Beato is no longer in charge of the game. Lambda is. So Battler not hearing something could know.
Mm-hmm.
I buy that as a thing in the first 4 episodes of if Battler's not there, it's not true.
What do you mean that? What do you buy?
His perspective being canon.
Yes.
Okay.
His perspective in canon. But, like, Lambda, we have seen demonstrably, Burn and Lambda do not play by Beato's assumed rules that are not written in stone.
Mm-hmm.
They do whatever the fuck they want,
Yeah.
and they play a little bit dirty.
I guess it's going to depend, like, are there rules Battler doesn't know about with what she is doing and how that... I think by the end of episode 5, like, it'll be clear what Lambda is doing differently from what Beatrice did.
I agree with that.
Well, we shall see.
And then that'll like kind of give context to our conversations to go into it further.
My last thought is that I think it's really interesting whenever Kyle listens to us talking and he just goes, okay.
Oh, I love the smirks that he gives.
Uh-huh.
He tries to hide it, and then he starts smiling, and then he, like, leans into it very heavily. It's just like, it's fun. I don't read into it because it's just like, whatever. He's just here to have us have a good time, and we are. I don't, you're a silly fella.
A silly goose, if you will.
So one thing I want to note is that we have Furuto Erika here, and Furuto Erika is the detective. How do you think that affects?
I would like you to read the next paragraph.
Yes, we'll be getting into that in this next paragraph as well. So
because that was one of my main points.
I have a point about this. I don't know, because I haven't read this. Cut this all out, Kyle.
Sure.
I don't know.
Kyle, keep this in.
If this is the point to reveal it. But there's an Agatha Christie novel where the point of view character is the fucking murderer. He's not the detective, but he's the point of view character. And I know that was a point of contention in the last episode y'all recorded that I didn't finish listening to. But, like, the point of view character can be the murderer.
How well received is this novel?
It's The Murder of Roger Ackroyd. It's
That
an
does not
Agatha
answer my
Christie novel.
question.
It's a very famous
It's very
Agatha
famous.
Christie novel.
And it was contentious then.
Does it mean it's well received?
It is, though.
Sorry, we have a red truth that says that Battler is not the murderer.
That is also true.
Yes. We know Battler is not the murderer, and we also know that Furuto Erika had no influence on any games prior to this. I'm just saying.
And we know that Furuto Erika is not the murderer, based on
I'm just saying there's precedent in the mystery genre by the queen of mystery.
I agree with you,
I don't.
but I don't think that it matters right now.
No, I don't. Which is why I was like, I don't know if this is the right place to bring this up, but I just wanted to mention it because it was a point of contention in the previous episode y'all talked about. Anyway,
Right.
Again, Kyle, cut all of this out if you want.
No, this is
or
actually
leave it
good
in.
shit.
We'll see.
My point is that if that novel is contentious, it's because she wrote a novel that flies in the face of the rules of whatever his name is that wrote. I have read mystery books that fucking suck because they don't focus on the mystery, or it's just like it's written like in an the perspective that you were reading was right. Like imagine if you were reading and then there were none from the perspective of the killer, and you're like, oh well, he died, and then there's 3 left. You know, like that's not fair.
But and then there were none. It's like, oh, we faked you out.
Right, and it's an unfair gotcha moment if you were writing it from the perspective of the person who dies and then ends up killing the third and tries to kill the last 2 people. Right? It's not good fiction, which is like what the basis of the rules of mystery this person wrote is like founded on. Like, what does the psyche of a person who is reading this book, like what it makes for a good mystery? It makes for something interesting, entertaining, solvable. It's always the hard part when you're writing a mystery, I have to assume, is solvable in a satisfying way.
Mm-hmm. I will say in The Murder of Roger Ackroyd, the point of view character is the murderer, but they are not the detective because the detective is Poirot, who is a separate character.
Which I think is a really fascinating twist, right? Like, I love that difference.
There's a fungibility there, right?
Yeah.
Because
it technically
in Umineko,
fits the rules.
They specifically say the detective cannot be the murderer. That's one of Knox's rules, is that the detective cannot be the murderer. And in said Agatha Christie novel, the point of view character is not the detective because Poirot is the detective, but the point of view character ends up being the murderer. I just thought it was interesting.
It's a good one.
I've never read this book.
It's a good book.
Is it written in a way where you, the reader, know that he's the killer trying to get away with it?
No, it's a reveal. It's called The Murder of Roger Ackroyd. It's very good.
Yeah, there's like a little bit of a moment where like they do a little fudging of his perspective so that he can do the. He basically says like, and then I did this thing. Oh, but what I meant by that was like I did a whole murder thing there because it's framed as being like his memoir, like he's like writing and what happened. So like there's an excuse to why he's leaving information out. It does work.
Okay, is this like a Danganronpa V3 moment? Like,
to be fair, I fucking love the twist of Danganronpa 3.
Oh, me
I think
too.
that was brilliant.
So that's what I'm trying to figure out is like I loved that twist because I thought it was and they played into that specific thing
well. Yeah.
in a way that is like we're gonna get even more off track here, and I'm sorry,
right?
but I'm
like
not.
this is stuff that would be cut.
If you've ever played the demo to Danganronpa V3,
No,
they make the entire demo of that game focused about they are talking to you as the player, saying you are playing this character who is the protagonist of Danganronpa V3, and they say the word protagonist and like special character, and they bring in the protagonist from the previous 2 games like to talk to you, and like they're hyping you up as this female character that is the protagonist of this game that will solve a murder or multiple murders throughout this entire thing. So you're playing this demo and it's going great. Then you get into the game, you're in your first trial, and then suddenly your perspective shifts to a different, very boring character. And he is boring when you get there. Like, don't like he is a he develops. Yeah, he develops, but he's intentionally boring. And then it's like, all right, now you're this character that you have to now accuse the character that you were just playing as.
It's so good.
And like, it's such a good thing because they set the entire demo up to trick you. And you look back on it and go, how did I not see this coming? Versus what I assume is the Agatha Christie way of they kind of fudge it at the end. There was no fudging in Danganronpa. There was.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of fudging in Roger Ackroyd. There's the one section Kyle mentioned.
Yeah, it's a single piece. I would say the Danganronpa is so. The reason why this is very contentious, and especially in Danganronpa, is that when you're in a character's head, you see them they give their perspective on things. You investigate objects, and they give their thoughts. It kind of betrays the premise if that character just decides to never think about that murder they did ever again. That's the kind of where it gets kind of not a big fan of that. But again, this is not the Danganronpa V3 podcast.
I think the difference with Danganronpa V3, with V3, it's very much the time difference between that moment to the reveal is very brief, which is it doesn't make you feel like an idiot. It makes you feel like this is different. Right? We still have a whole fucking game to get through.
Yeah.
And I appreciate that. So a lot of my frustrations with Umineko have been they're leading us on for so many hours of reading where it's I kind of feel how reliable is the author? A lot of times, especially the character-driven stuff, is very no, they made me feel stupid, but then showed they know what they were doing. And no, I take it back. I'm here for it. I think it's well done. I think it's clever. I think it's a fascinating and unique story. So as we're getting into episode 5, and there's some of these things starting to rear their heads of what's different, what's kind of, flying in the face of the rules that seem to have been established or implied, I'm not super upset. I don't like it. I've talked about it, but I'm still coming into it with a very open mind because this guy has proven himself to know what the fuck he's doing as far as writing a mystery is concerned.
The other thing I come into with Umineko is I have come to peace with the fact that we do not know all of the mechanics.
Yeah.
Every single episode has introduced a new mechanic of some sort that Beato introduces or Lambda introduces or whatever the fuck. Or there's just some information we didn't have previously. And that's where I'm finding a lot of peace as a person who I like theorizing, but if I don't solve it, I'm not gonna lose my mind.
Right.
I am fine to be along for the ride. And so I'm really just enjoying the execution of how it's all been building and been able to make even higher level reveals than I thought was possible. And I really look forward to more of them, like whatever the fuck Battler did to Beato 6 years ago. So
Right. Even to the point where I think that what the author has a really good handle of is the mindset of where the reader is at through the progression of the story. Because I think it gets to a point where you're very quickly going to be like, what if Furuto Erika is just no, Furuto Erika has had no impact on anything previous. At around the time where the reader's starting to wonder, could that be a thing? And I think that is kind of where this guy excels at having a fantastic grasp of his own story and what a fan and reader of the fantasy genre where they're at as they come into it. But on the converse side, he kind of knows the mystery people who get into the puzzle solving and want to solve the epitaph, where are they at? And kind of drip feeding the next hint that you need to solve it and kind of where it's coming from, right? Kyle says he knows of a guy who has said that he solved it at the end of episode 4.
Yeah, this is an online forum post, back when Umineko was first coming out.
Right. Yeah. And people on the internet lie about shit all the time to make themselves look good. Who knows? But I am confident that by the end of episode 5, the epitaph is solved.
Okay.
Right? You can figure it out if you really dig into it. I think probably right now, we could figure it out. I'm not smart enough or have the time or give a shit enough to do it, but I'm sure it's possible. And probably as the rest of episode 5 finishes, we'll get even more hints. Well, maybe not. I don't know. But clearly, because Lambda Delta kind of taunts Battler in the metaverse a little bit, I can't get still some mysteries here, buddy. I'm not telling you how to solve it.
Yeah.
I don't know. I would love if this whole thing is to set Battler up to take the headship and be I solved it. I have matured enough to be able to take on the reins of what's going to happen. I think that's possible.
Yeah. And I will tell you, Lambda Delta's position of I'm not going to show you everything is very much the position this story takes with a lot of its mysteries. So
yeah, I'm just content to be they're not giving me enough clues. And you know what? I'm going to live with that because I've read enough Arthur Conan Doyle from when he got lazy and he was like, Sherlock figured it out.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, it's not solvable for me, but sure, for Sherlock, great.
Yeah. That's the point where it's not a mystery, it's just fiction that I'm enjoying.
Which is, I'm also literally... Kyle, you can cut this out if you don't like it.
No, leave it, Kyle.
But, like, to relate to Capelli, I literally just started a rewatch of Lost with two of my best friends who have never seen it and don't know any spoilers. They literally know fucking nothing about it.
Oh, that's so fun. I love it.
And we're about to watch the season 1 finale, like, this weekend.
Oh,
and
so good.
I have realized that I am a very character-based person. Like, when I watch or play or listen to or relate to any kind of media, I am very invested in, like, the character motivations and what makes sense and what doesn't based on, like, what we know about their past and what we know about their desires.
Yeah.
So, like, with Umineko is designed as a story where we do not know everything about these characters. And we are getting slowly drip-fed information over a long, long period of time.
For us, anyway.
Especially for us, yeah.
Yes. And me as a person, like, I am less game-minded than the rest of y'all, because y'all love games, and relatable. I also love games, but I'm a lazy person, and you guys are less lazy than I am, I think. So you think about it in more, like, gamified terms than I do, and I think about it in, like, a character-based way in terms of, like, why would they do this, and they would never do this, kind of a thing. So it's really interesting to see how that intersects, but also I'm just kind of along for the ride, man. Like, I don't really care where this ends up, except for I love Beatrice, and I think Bernkastle's a cheater.
You say that you're just along for the ride, but honestly, your perspective of being such a character-driven person, and as far as consuming media, brings such a fantastic point of view into this that I feel like Hayley definitely touches on, but you come at it with a different passion that, like, our show definitely needs. It's so fucking good, like, your thoughts and your perspectives and how people think. But, like, it's so good, and I'm so glad you're part of this with us, because you think of things and you present things in a way where it might be, yeah, I kind of thought of that, but you say it in such a way where it's just like, that's the oomph that we need, or that I needed to hear to be able to bounce off my thoughts on. So, very good shit. Don't give yourself a detriment. I'm so glad that you have your thoughts and you have your perspectives, wrong or not. Like, it gives us such good, like, things to think about.
Oh, that was very touching, Capelli. Shame it's all going to get cut. Anyway.
No, I'm an asshole. I take it all.
It's okay. It's enough that I heard it.
That was the best.
Thank you. That was very sweet.
That was so good, Kyle. I agree with all of that, but I'm more laughing at what Kyle said.
We'll make it post-credits content.
Yeah.
If hey, there's the...
Hey! That's a good use of it.
Oh, man.
Oh, man.
This is supposed to be a short episode.
Quick aside. And yeah, right?
How many asides are we on?
I know. No, this will get cut. This has no relevance. But just because Becca said that she's, like, introducing Lost to people who've never seen it and enjoying that, like, I've been playing a shit ton of the Blueprints, like, over the past couple months.
Nice.
Yeah, let's talk about it.
We'll talk later. Like, but, like, Kendra just started playing it, and she's on, like, day 10. But even still, like, and she's like, oh, I noticed this, so then I figured that. So good. She's so fucking smart. I love that girl.
I'll need to message Kendra about this.
And so it's really cool to, like I was watching her stream and play it and, like, ask her thoughts as she found the crypt for the first time and stuff like that. And so, like, that and, like, having people, like, watch these mystery shows like Lost and get their perspective, knowing the full narrative that's given to you. God, there's nothing, like, it's so great to, like, watch a show for, like, that for the first time, but then kind of get to re-experience that, like, on its own. Like, I love The Outer Wilds. Is one of the best video games ever made.
Yeah.
And then, like, I watched one of my favorite YouTubers like within like an 8-hour video that's like a fan made like cut of them playing it and figuring out and there being like, because this person's like very into like environmental storytelling, which is something that the game's great at.
Mm-hmm.
I love that shit. So like I can only imagine the joy Kyle has as we go through this story over what has at this point been 15 months between me, him, and Ben.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then I think at this point it's been a year since Becca and Hayley joined.
Yep.
It's great. I love stuff like this, and I love doing it with you guys.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, for Umineko, you get to read it the first time, and then you get to read it the second time, and then you get to convince someone else to read it. That's the life cycle.
And at this point, I am struggling not to mention the text clock tower game that Becca and I are playing right now.
we have gone through 5 different tangents. Let's finish this up.
Kyle has work to do on this edit, okay? That's all I gotta say.
If you wonder why the release schedule is so fucked, it's because shit like this.
It's me. It's my fault.
And that's why you have to leave all of this in so that people can know.
Right.
Mm-hmm. The morning of October 5th, 1986 dawns. Battler's awoken at 7 a.m. by George's alarm sounding. However, when no one else wakes up to turn it off, Battler is forced to get up and do so himself. Shaking off his drowsiness, Battler turns on the lights and discovers a grisly scene. Cut to a short time later, we see Eva and Hideyoshi crying over George's corpse. George, along with Jessica, Maria, and even Aunt Rosa, has had their throats cut to the bone, with an eerie magic circle painted in what looks like blood on the wall of the room. With a knock, Erika peers in from the corridor and offers her false condolences, clearly licking her chops at the prospect of a murder to solve. When Battler tries to deny her access to the room as a mere guest sticking her nose where it doesn't belong, Erika smirks and invokes her detective's authority. The detective has the right to investigate all crime scenes. Move out of the way, you shear me at Battler. This is my legitimate right within the game as granted by the human side. The supernatural power granted by a higher realm allows Erika to force her way into the cousin's room and compels Dr. Nanjo to share his findings with her. With only 4 bodies found, Bernkastel assumes there must be 2 others somewhere else, if Lambda really is following Beatrice's structure. Although she does laugh at how Lambda messed up the Hebrew on the magic circle. In the metaworld, the 7 Sisters of Purgatory appear and go to report to Beatrice that someone is impersonating her epitaph ritual.
So this is what I was talking about, Becca, about, like, the mess that they made of the game. The fact that they are invoking detective's authority, actively stepping on what Battler would say is like, no, you're not allowed in here, and like an otherworldly voice saying, no, she must be let in for the game. That's messing things up. That's like the biggest like red flag of this isn't Beatrice's game, because up until this point, we've never had something like this.
Yeah.
Nothing has even been close to this line of like an otherworldly force actively changing the narrative and actively like steering the story in a specific way. We've always had like the like vague notions that like things are happening in the background, but it's never been in the foreground like this.
Right, like imagine this written into a mystery novel.
Yeah.
Sucks.
This is 100% Bernkastel taking liberties. Like,
Sure.
that
I
Beato
agree.
wouldn't take. Yeah, 100%.
I agree with this, and this is why I was saying, like, this is why when they were saying they have made a mess of the game, this is it, right here. The fact that they're forcing that Peace Battler, who was controlled by Bernkastel in this case, even had, like, the wherewithal to still be like, my feeling is, as a Peace, he's not thinking that, of course, but like his emotions are so strong that it would be like, you are not allowed in here.
As a piece, he's like, you're a guest and you're not part of this family. You shouldn't be going in there. Yeah.
Yeah. And yet there has to be the player that says, no, this piece has to let them in. That's weird and wrong.
Yeah. It's a fun commentary on like some of the anti-mystery versus anti-fantasy stuff that we read. How objectively fantastical this is. It is the most objectively fantasy thing we've seen in the story so far, is that the detective is able to like guarantee to get into the crime scene.
I am wondering if this entire story will be null and void. Like, I'm wondering if this won't count as a game, like by the end, because it breaks some rule.
It's like a mistrial, almost.
Yeah, like it's still like the meta battler still gets to experience it because it happened in a sense, but it can't actually be counted as a fragment because some sort of like break in the rule or something. I think that would be a really interesting take on it, and the fact that none of this is therefore valid, since the murder shouldn't be happening anyway because the epitaph was solved, and yet they continue to, and the Hebrew was bad, which has never been mentioned before.
I think I almost wonder if like it's bad intentionally because it's actually different from the Hebrew they're all expecting.
Yep. I think there's something going on with whoever is actually responsible for this fragment. If they're real, if this fragment is going to be a legitimate play of this game, that they are a different killer than the previous 4, or at least different than the first and the second, where they really had like, that's where they really showed off the like blood-soaked runes, like that that was especially relevant in episodes 1 and 2, and those were never mentioned to be shoddy or bad Hebrew, which Maria kind of knew.
No, yeah, I mean, Maria even verified them,
Yeah, and now we don't have a Maria. Maria's dead.
True.
Like, that's wild.
That reminds me. At what point do you think these people died? Before Battler comes into the room to go to sleep? Because that's what's alluded to.
Yes.
But we have no evidence.
We have no evidence, no.
Even Nanjo doesn't give an estimated time of death.
True.
Does he?
No.
Not this time?
Which I think is a fascinating omission.
I mean, Nanjo is one of the 3 people in the house that should have known that something was wrong. It was Nanjo, Erika, and Goda. They are the 3 that were in the house having a discussion when Battler got back before he went up to the room. So obviously, if they vouch for each other, that's fine. But there is always the possibility, and I don't want to hurt my boy Nanjo like this, but like there is always technically the possibility that Goda and or Nanjo are in on it together. Like, and I'm not saying that this is likely, but we have to examine the possibility that they had the when and where. Like they were in the house when Rosa went up to check on Maria after leaving the family conference, and could have easily at any point went and done that. But also, it has not been confirmed that this wasn't suicide in some way, that Rosa couldn't have done it.
Sure.
Like, I'm just kind of throwing out some random possibilities that we haven't, like, that weren't actually talked about yet, in the sense of there's no red to unconfirm them.
Yeah, pretty quickly we usually get reds that deny suicide or anything like that, right?
Yeah, but we haven't gotten those yet. It's also shaky. It's also a different setup. It's very gruesome. But not as gruesome as like the beating half in the head with, or full in the face with, like the first episode. So I don't know. There's just so many different possibilities right now that people have the when and where. But who actually has the motive is the real question right now. And why was it done in such a weird way? This is the first time we've seen throat slit like this deep into the bone, as like a, like, what, 4 of them in there?
But even then, like, we get the blue text of, like, the people who die are actually not dead, they're hiding, and these are
correct.
Like body swaps, right?
I don't believe that is the case, but it's a good blue text just to kind of throw out there right now.
Sure.
Yeah, we'll get to those.
Until you get more info to make more informed blue texts.
I wanted to make a joke, and I can't remember what the fuck it was.
Oh, no.
No, okay, I remember.
Knock, knock.
This is from the previous reading.
Okay.
But I feel like this is the best place to put this, and you can cut it out entirely if you don't like it, Kyle. But like in the previous reading, there was a comment from someone about how the magical world is like a reflection of the real world. And so if we're thinking about the real world and the magical world as reflections of each other, we know that Runaway and Genji are kind of like the same. Virgilia and Kumasawa are kind of like the same. And so that leads me to think, who would be the Gop reflection? And I think it's probably Goda. Goda and Gap are the same person. They are total divas who need a lot of attention and are very flamboyant and specific, and that tickled me and I wanted to share. Thank you. for your attention.
I do not know that I would call Goda flamboyant.
I do think he is flamboyant. I agree with that, actually. I think that the way
Thank you,
that
Ben.
he...
Thank you. Pride Month.
I think it's a very specific flamboyancy.
A flamboyancy, if you will.
It's very specific when he's, like, in front of people. He wants to show off his
Mhm.
skills. He wants to really, like, be the center of attention when he's a butler. Like, that's not normal, necessarily. And, like, Gap likes to be the center of attention when she's just a demon serving Beatrice. I see the connection. I like it.
Yeah, I can see it.
Thank you. I love your validation.
In the kitchen, Goda and Shannon happily prepare breakfast. Kumasawa and Kanon arrive, but Genji seems to have slept in. Kanon and Kumasawa go to the servants' quarters to wake him, as apparently Kanon had fallen asleep in the guest house servant room last night and hadn't seen Genji yet this morning. When they arrive at the door to the servants' quarters, they see that someone has placed a piece of duct tape connecting the door to the doorframe. While this would normally hold the door closed, small serrations have been cut into the middle to allow it to tear easily and separate if the door was opened. And even more strangely, it seems that someone had written two signatures across the tape in pen. One, E. Ferrudo, and the other, Frederica Berncastle. Unsure of what to make of it, Kanon and Kumasawa ignore the tape and enter the servants' quarters. There, they find Genji dead, killed in the same manner as those in the cousin's room.
What the fuck is this faux locked room BS with the people who are supposedly on the side of solving the mystery as, like, the signatures? Like, that's weird.
Yeah.
Doesn't make any sense to me.
Why is one also E. Ferrudo and the other one's Frederica Berncastle and not Erika Ferrudo or F. Berncastle?
Amount of space on the tape?
Yep, that's it. Instead of shortening Frederica, they shorten a 5-letter word Erika.
Yeah.
Well, your surname is more important in Japanese.
That's what I mean, but you could have just do F. Berncastle then.
Yeah, I think you can make the case that Frederica Berncastle is like a mystical name, and so shortening it is not appropriate. I mean, you could also just put Berncastle, though, so who knows?
I have a feeling just by your answer that we're not actually going to get a solve for that, but that's fine.
No, I don't think there's anything important for that. I'll tell you that.
Damn it! I thought I found something.
Yeah, it is strange, for sure.
Yeah, I got nothing else on it right now. The tape is weird. I think Kanon and Goda were very understandable, being like, the fuck is this? Open the goddamn door.
Mm-hmm. Natsui is awoken in her room by the sound of the phone ringing. Lucifer appears and informs Natsui that there is bad news. However, Natsui decides to answer the phone first, and is greeted by none other than the man from 19 years ago, wishing her a good morning. He says that his party preparations are complete, and that Natsui is to be the main guest. He allows Krauss's cries to untie him and let him go to be heard over the phone, and tells Natsui that if she does as he requests today, he will release Krauss tomorrow. 1. She must pretend to know nothing of Krauss's disappearance. And 2. She must hide in a certain guest room closet for an hour sometime this afternoon without getting caught. With Kanon and Goda arriving at her door to wake her and inform her of the deaths, Natsui quickly agrees.
That's crazy. I haven't gotten to this part of the reading, but that's fucking crazy. Anyway, go on.
We then cut back to the witch's smoking room, where we see Lambda Delta once again performing the voice on the other end of the phone. Berncastle confirms that the outside phone line is now unusable, and thus the closed circle granting the detective total authority has been created. Everyone living gathers in the parlor and informs each other of what has happened. When Krauss is noticed to be missing, Kyrie and Erika say that they suspected that there would be a sixth death to match the epitaph. The servants also note that they are unable to contact Kenzo, but before anyone can suggest that they go to his study, Natsui rushes out the door, saying that finding Krauss is more important. In Purgatorio, Beatrice wonders why there are murders happening even though the epitaph has been solved. Ronove appears and suggests that Lambda Delta's piece, the man from 19 years ago, may be responsible. Although, as Gap says, the red truth about the number of people on the island means that this must be someone we already know. With the net tightening around Natsuhi, Beatrice has Gap take advantage of the human side's lack of vision of the mansion to make a move of their own.
I mean, there's only one culprit that makes any sense to me, and that is Natsuhi.
What, for what?
The murders in this.
Okay.
I think it is so interesting that the man from 19 years ago being a Lambda piece, as opposed to a Berncastle piece or a Beato piece, is very interesting to me.
It gives a motivation for why Natsuhi would snap and do this. Like, that's like none of episodes 1 through 4 give a full rationale to the motives of the killer if it's Team Mystery, with the exception of Eva in episode 3, right? Because, like, I'm thinking like the adult that survives is usually the killer. So episode 1 would be, again, Natsuhi, which I talked about last a podcast episode. Episode 2 would have been Rosa. 3 would be Eva, and 4 would have been Kyrie. Right? Like that's what I'm thinking. I don't think that episode 4's Kyrie is a very strong argument compared to the other 3, but in theme, it is the only thing that makes sense. So episode 5, like if we start getting our repetition, but then we're kind of seeing it more from the supposed killer's perspective, makes Natsuhi a more empathetic villain, where she has these visions, ideas, delusions, where, like, let's say she ends up getting caught out, and she's like, no, it's Beatrice, they and Gop and this fake Genji, they're the ones that made me do that, pushed me, and I did it for Krauss, and he's missing. But like, if Krauss shows up and being like, my wife did this, like, that's good fiction. That's an interesting story, depending on how they rationalize it. We could see the story for episode 5 going in that way, maybe. Sure. There's plausibility. I just feel like this, and that kind of like leads into the man from 19 years ago. We, the reader, won't see them in a way that Natsuhi maybe does, and it feeds into this delusion of pressure and why she sees Kinzo in even previous episodes as somebody who gives her validation. You know, we've said it even tonight that she just wants to be acknowledged for her strengths. And I still feel like we have a lot of backstory into who she was as a young girl and how she was raised up. There's allusions. I don't think we're going to get flashbacks per se, but I do believe we'll get more exposition into how her upbringing has been and the pressure that's been put on her. And now you've been married into this very powerful family, and you need to, and you must. I could see it going that way, and I feel like it'd be done very well, to the point where I don't think we're ever going to get the POV of a killer doing these murders from Team Mystery's side. If we do, it'll be at the very end. Right. I don't know. That's kind of like my thoughts of where this is going, because the story will always be very upfront with this is Team Magic or Team Fantasy, and then kind of reserved like, Team Mystery, what could it be? What's it gonna be? Like, and I think that's where it does very well, because you could be like, no, it doesn't make sense to follow Team Mystery. And again, I believe that we will get to a point where we, the reader, will get to decide what makes more sense for us. And they're keeping it open the whole way through, and at the end, it will be like, what do you believe? I don't think this is wrong. I don't think it's bad storytelling. It's fascinating to go through 120 hours, whatever it's going to be at the end, to get to that point. I think it's like, what, we're at 80-something, so maybe we'll get to like 160 by the end.
I love how certain you are of your called shot that you're getting mad about it. You're like, you know what, I'm going to just, maybe, yeah, well, maybe we'll see.
No, I kind of am mad about it because I think I figured it out. In part to meta a little bit of like, one thing you said where we do get to make a choice at one point. I feel like that's just like, what the fuck else could it be? But I was wondering that anyway. Like, the whole narrative is it path A or path X, right? Like, it just very much fits that.
Yeah, and that is definitely one of the through line themes of the story. I mean, hell, it's like from episode 1 of the podcast, I put down, let's make sure we have a mystery perspective and we have a fantasy perspective. I want to make sure that's always centered in that discussion.
And I think if you hadn't done that, like to put frame and scope on the podcast, I don't know that I'd come up with it. Right, I feel like I'd very much just be along for the ride if I was in this by myself. But having 3 or 4 people to kind of bounce ideas off of makes me reflect. And the structure you put into the notes makes me be like, okay, he's putting this.
I get it. I'm a bad podcast host. I'm leading you on. I'm giving you too many answers.
Thank
Sorry.
You. I just needed to hear you say it. No.
I know.
Yes. But no.
All right.
But yes.
In Krauss's room, no body is found, and there is a similar bloodstain on his bedding as those of the other victims. With no corpse, though, Bernkastel refused to believe that Krauss is actually dead. Additionally, with Genji dead and his master key stolen, there is unlikely to be any closed room mysteries this game, much to Erika's disappointment. When it is brought up that the state of Krauss's bed is similar to that of the other victims, Natsuhi once again runs off, still having not gotten a chance to see her daughter's body. Erika asks everyone to follow Natsuhi to the guest house, even though her seeing Jessica's face is unlikely to advance the plot. However, once they arrive back at the guest house, they discover that all of the bodies are missing. Lambda refuses to confirm any of the deaths in red at this time, so Bernkastel gives the following blue truth. The victims aren't actually dead. They pretended to be dead, then secretly hid themselves After all, you haven't declared anyone's death with a red truth. Of course, just one blue truth won't do. Unlike a vampire, it takes more than a single stake to kill a witch. Bergessel also gives us 2 more theories. Krauss carried the bodies off and hid them. You're making it look like you've kidnapped Krauss and locked him up somewhere, but he might actually be free. Krauss has no alibi. Krauss hid their corpses. As well as, the corpses were different people in the first place. They are substitute corpses, made to look like the victims. George and the others were hiding from the very beginning, and later cleared away the substitute corpses. Corpses are dead from the very beginning, so they don't count towards the number of people on the island. Of course, Bergessel expects that Lambda will be able to refute all of these with a few simple red statements in the end, but the game has only just begun. In the servants' quarters, Gap likewise disappears Genji's corpse, although she notes that the length and sharpness of the blade necessary to make that killing cut implies a powerful demon indeed. In Purgatorio, Beatrice and Ronove discuss the status of the game. Beatrice compares their position to that of the empires in Record to the Three Kingdoms. However, as Ronove notes, all 3 empires ended up being destroyed. Even the Jin dynasty, who won the conflict, ended up being usurped by a clan they'd invited in as advisors. An irony not lost on Beatrice. In this 3-way fight, if 2 of the sides are the humans and the witches, that must leave Peace Beatrice on the team of illusions. And that is our reading for this week.
It's very interesting because, like, if you believe Team Mystery, right, which is kind of like the frame that I believe the story is intended to be viewed through initially, why disappear the bodies? Like, to what purpose does it serve to present evidence and immediately hide it? I guess it's kind of self-evident, but it's never been done in the previous 4 episodes. They allow full analysis.
There's been a few bodies that have got disappeared.
It's definitely happened in the previous 4 episodes where bodies have disappeared, yeah.
A few, it's happened, but it's not been...
Not a full disappearance, though, yeah.
The first Twilight is very much meant to be, haha, humans, what say you to this? And in this case, it's like, nope, like, poof, gone.
Again, new fucking rules. New game master, new fucking rules.
And we're still missing body number 6 from the first Twilight.
Yep.
And, like, I wonder, like, if Lambda Delta is just discarding the epitaph, right? Because it's like, it's been solved. The idea of it being 6 is to make them think it's tied to the epitaph. I don't care. I'm killing people.
Right. As I kind of talked about in the previous episode, when they were talking about why follow the epitaph murders, one of the reasons they gave was because it allows you to hide, theoretically, some of the killings by making it seem like you're following the epitaph when you're not. So it's possible something like that is happening here.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like, the entire point of the previous reading is that the epitaph and the murders don't actually have any kind of correlation. It's Beato was doing that in order to make it seem like there was a correlation for her own purposes, which are still unknown. But to someone like Lambda, why would she care?
Nihilism or not nihilism. What's the fucking term? Sadism. Sadism?
For them, it's fun to break the rules.
Yeah, fair.
I think that is true.
I think more specifically, it's fun to break Beato's rules.
Yes, I agree with that.
I don't even think it's Beato's rules because I think Beato is still subservient to Lambda. Like, I think my entire takeaway of the reading previous to this one was, like, Beato is stuck between a rock and a hard place where she can't really do a whole lot except present Battler specifically for whatever unknown reason. We still don't know what happened between them 6 years ago. With this premise where the deaths really don't mean anything and the epitaph doesn't really mean anything and they're both equal. And so that reads to me like Beato is A, searching for help, and B, trying to find an avenue out of this purgatory that she's been assigned to by Lambda Delta. Because Lambda Delta is like, you have to keep this game going for as long as I want it to, for forever, because I want to trap Burncastle. Like, there's all of these larger mechanisms at play. And I think Burncastle even has a larger mechanism at play than Lambda Delta. I low-key think Burn might be the ultimate bad of this entire series, but I have inklings and I don't have a lot of evidence yet. So I'm working on it.
I think the story is nuanced enough that there's not going to be a true, like, bad. Like,
very true.
The true big bad is going to be the circumstances. Right? It's going to be the human condition.
No. Somebody created the circumstance. Somebody created the circumstance.
They may have been the progenitor, but it doesn't mean that they have been a true villain through and through. Listen, have you ever played Final Fantasy games?
No, but I've watched Lost, and the Man in Black sucks.
Look, but the final boss isn't the Man in Black. The final boss is usually fucking God, right? Just like fate and how it's driven these people together.
I've played Final Fantasy X, and you know what? Fuck that guy who's trying to marry Yuna. I don't even remember his name. Fuck him.
The final boss of Final Fantasy X is Yu Yevon, right? You think it's Seymour.
Oh, Seymour. Thank you.
But the final boss ends up being Yu Yevon. Final Fantasy IX is the same. Final Fantasy VIII is quasi the same. 7 is not. 6 is a guy who tries to be God.
And then kind of is God. Like,
he gets powerful enough that it takes 16 people to stop him.
We're gonna fight God, and we're gonna say, fuck you.
With a red or a blue text.
Yes, with a blue text. We're gonna say, fuck you, God. Hasaiba Digawai.
Hey, with what we know about theology and philosophy, to blue text God, you don't exist, right? He's got a red text that he does, and then he's got to, we got to find the rationalization, which doesn't exist, right? That's what faith is, baby.
I have 3 words. Hasaiba Digawai. Fuck you, God. There we go. We're good.
How could you say something so controversial, yet so brave?
Just listen to the Book of Mormon. Anyway,
All right. Any final thoughts before we wrap up?
Final thoughts? Brother, we've only started.
We've gone through at least 7 different other, media sources and in this episode, and, most of them are tangentially related to what we're talking about, but all of them relate to the thing that preceded them.
That's right. Lost.
What's the name of the author of this again?
Ryukishi07.
07. I really want to know, the sorts of things that gave him influence as a writer. Whether it's related to Umineko or even his projects, leading him to create something like this. What did he grow up on that, inspired him to think about these things and create it? That's an interview I'm sure exists. I'd love to find and read it, but I'm not putting that into a Google search and spoiling anything.
No, you really can't. Yeah, because one of the big interviews that he gave was giving extra red truths to talk about confirming things out of the story. So
that's so cool. If you don't have access to them, please find them and save them. And I'd love to do a post-op podcast episode after the fact.
Oh, I'm sure. Well, yeah, I'm sure we'll have a bunch of stuff once we finish. There's lots of stuff we can go into as far as side content.
Give me the red. Give me
the red.
My main takeaways are Beato supremacy always, and these blue truths, the corpses were different people in the first place. They were substitute corpses made to look like the victims.
Nah,
none of that's gonna hold. Lambda is gonna show up in 1 or 2 chapters and fucking decimate with an entire avalanche of red truths. She's holding back purposefully. She is literally telling us as the audience in the reading that she's holding back.
She's here to play and win the game.
She's like, nah, I don't think I'm gonna say anything right now. And she's gonna show up and try to decimate Battler as best as she can. And I'm hoping that she's not very successful.
2 things that just popped in my head. 1, I think there are a couple parts of the blue truths that are very prevalent. I think in these 3 blue truths that we got here at the end, I think Krauss's culpability is very important, right? Similar to how Hideyoshi's culpability or suspected culpability when Eva was the killer, quote unquote, is very much a big part.
The reveal, it was last reading, but the reveal of Hideyoshi being I've been stealing shit from the Americans this entire time and that's why my business is successful is okay, I knew there was some kind of hook with you. I didn't know that's what it would be.
I'm sorry, what was this?
But I trusted you. We were rooting for you.
I don't know what this is actually. Can you reference?
I will have to go back and find the specific screenshot, but he talks about how I'll find it and I'll send it to you, Kyle. You can cut this out if you want.
Yeah, please do, because that's an interesting read of that.
Anyway, that's number 1. The number 2 thing I wanted to bring up is, do y'all think Beatrice wakes up in this chapter, in this episode, in any substantial way?
In the episode, yes. The episodes are long.
Episode 5, yeah. You think Battler will connect with her or something will happen?
Part of my whole thing between the last reading and this reading, even, like, the way that the last reading ended with Battler finally fucking realizing that she keeps him alive on purpose because she wants to be around him, aka true love. Just putting that out there. Beato and Battler, that's a real ship. And I'm sailing it.
Hold on.
I'm not saying that's not where it's going.
Hold the phone.
That is not my main focus, but, like, I'm open to contradictions and interpretations.
I don't think that's where it started. I don't think that's her initial motivation. But I think through this, like, there is a connection that you could argue has been developed. But I don't think, like, before we start episode 1, that's where it begins.
Okay.
Something happened 6 years ago.
Yes.
That we still don't understand.
Well, Rudolf has some information that hopefully we're going to get soon.
My thing is, the reason that Battler is kept alive is for some reason, as they described, Beatrice wants to show him these killings.
Yep.
There is something in these killings that is supposed to make him remember.
Yep.
Or realize or something about the sin of 6 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
The most important red truth we have gotten so far has been from Virgilia, where she said Beatrice's motivation has not been vindictive. Like, that's the summary of what she was putting out there.
It is not based on revenge or any kind of vindictiveness.
Malice,
yes.
yeah.
And so when they get to the end of episode 4, he's been through 4 different killing games, survived till the end of all 4 of them, and then is the only one alive. Literally the only one on the island alive. And he's still not able to remember it. That's when Beatrice lost all of her, like, bravado, if you remember.
Agreed.
So, there is obviously, she made some kind of miscalculation that somehow she thought that this would be the way to get him to do or realize or remember something that didn't end up working out. So that's when she, like, was realized, oh, this game isn't going to work. Like, and that's why, part of why she shut down and realized she just wanted to die, because her main goal could no longer be accomplished if she got down to that end of episode 4 and couldn't do it. How else are you going to do it when you made this one person the only person alive, everyone else is dead, and you know that you're not the culprit? Like, and yet you still can't remember the sin of 6 years ago? That's such a big letdown that there was a premise of this game that was lost in translation from planning to execution.
I want to ask you this, Ben. Do you believe the Battler that we have seen over these 5 episodes, 4.5, is the Battler that Beatrice had an interaction with 6 years ago?
Yes.
I agree with that.
I cannot rationalize that.
We don't have the information for it.
Yeah, no.
I do not have the information to say why I believe that. I just do. I don't think that it's mostly a meta reason, as I don't think that they would just say, oops, she got the wrong person. Like, that would be stupid. But
I think they could do it in a way that actually makes her be like, she's like, oh no, I'm on Team Mystery now, what's happening? I think that's fun. You make the killer into the detective. What's his name doesn't have a law about that.
My major thing is, in the previous reading, not the one that we're talking about today, but in the previous reading, when Battler and Byrne are finding the Golden Land, and Battler has that whole scene where he sees Kinzo.
Confirmed dead Kinzo, yeah.
Confirmed dead Kinzo. Battler's whole thing is that he's supposed to be, like, the most powerful non-magic toxin, right? Like, he has so much of the anti-magic toxin within him and Angie.
Yeah, Infinite 9 magic defense.
Yeah.
But he still sees some version of Kinzo that is,
well, I mean,
supposedly magical and listens to it.
We even are told that Berncastle's controlling his piece at that point. How much anti-magic toxin does he have?
No. Here's the other thing. we talked about this briefly earlier, and I don't know if you guys fully grokked onto what I was saying, but like, in terms of the pieces on the playing board, I think the players make the grand decisions about like what the pieces learn and what they know and who dies. And the pieces react in the way that their quote unquote characters would react.
Right. They're true to themselves. Yeah.
Because we've seen the Peace Battler behave in ways that would contradict Meta Battler in terms of like what Meta Battler knows versus what Peace Battler knows.
Mm-hmm.
My belief is that the people controlling the game board, even though it's Burn and Lambda, they don't have direct control over the pieces in terms of like the things that they say and the decisions they make. I think they have control over the situations that the pieces get put into, and then the pieces have to make their own decisions. So I don't think Battler's piece was being directly controlled by Burncastle. He was influenced by the circumstances that Burncastle created, but then reacted to them in the way that Battler as a character we assume would react. Like, I do think there is a certain element of autopilot with the pieces in terms of the games, but I don't know how extensive it is. So my only real rebuttal to that is I don't think Burncastle is directly controlling Battler's piece. I think she's creating circumstances and then we are seeing how he reacts.
So you believe he would be smart enough to figure out the epitaph?
No, I because Erika is the one driving that like 90% of the time. He's kind of just along the ride with her.
Yeah, he had a couple of like key theory moments where he came up with a couple of things, but it seemed like Erika was pushing and prodding most of the answer to him.
Because she really wanted it to be solved.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, that's Burncastle's piece. She's solving the riddle. And also, if I may drop this here, let me look at my phone really quick because this is something I took notes on.
Okay, it was a sneeze. Ben had a look on his face that made him think like he was like, I can't believe we're still doing this. He was just like, and then he sneezed. I was like, oh, okay, that's what that was.
I just really had to sneeze. I'm sorry.
Dude, a sneeze. The sneeze face is so intense and so real. I think Burncastle, like, Beato is playing a game that she is beholden to Lambda about.
Mm.
And Lambda is playing a game because she wants to entrap Burncastle in a way that she has previously. Like, from what we know of Lambda and Burncastle's previous relationship is that Lambda tried to trap her and it didn't work and Burncastle beat her and whatever. As we've seen through Erika as a character, she's extremely arrogant and very interested in solving the riddle.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think Burncastle is on a level even above Lambda Delta, playing along with her game to maintain appearances, but also trying to get one up on her as like a form of revenge for the way that Lambda Delta tried to trap Burncastle previously in presumably Higurashi, a thing I've never read.
Big agree.
That'll be the next season of the podcast, yeah.
So Burncastle is really using this as like a revenge ploy against Lambda. And I truly think Beato is this figure who is caught just kind of like as a pawn.
Mm-hmm.
And she doesn't have any real recourse to her situation other than presenting this conundrum where she has the epitaph and all of these fucking murders that she's been doing, where they don't actually mean anything, in the hopes that someone will notice. And because she is a person beholden to these other fucking witches, cannot do anything about her situation, so she needs someone on the outside to recognize that something is up and they need to take action in some form or another. And that person may be Battler. And also, she's keeping Battler alive all the time because she wants to play with him because she loves him. And that was the end of the last reading and all of that. But Like, I truly think it is Berncastle is playing on a level that even Lambda is not perceiving, because Lambda thinks she's controlling Beato, and Beato is trying to get out of this by any means necessary, is kind of where I'm at right now.
Well, we will see if any of that ends up being true.
That means it will.
Next week, we will be reading about 4 hours of the VN, ending when golden butterflies appear, followed by text that reads, Beatrice, it's time for you to die now. I hope that your heart is stopped by the hand of the person you desire. After which the clock advances from 1:37 p.m. to midnight. That is videos 85 through 87 of the YouTube playlist. It is a pretty big doozy of a read. Really great stuff in there.
You say it's what, like 3.5 hours?
About 4 hours of reading. It's
wow.
Because of the way the breakdown happened, there's a couple of like really big chapters. I would say like this episode for sure is kind of dominated by several just like multi-hour long chapters. And so the breakdown just kind of had this one being a bit small, and then the ones to the side being a bit bigger. But this next bit of reading is a really fun one, so I think y'all are really going to enjoy it.
I'm gonna cry.
Remember, Becca, 85 to 87.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got it this time.
All right. Well, thank you for joining us. I hope you enjoyed listening to us ramble about a variety of medias that are not Umineko, and some about Umineko. But remember to think off meta.